Welcome, everybody, to the District House. My name is Hannah Jo, and I'm the guest interviewer here. I'm seated with Brent Pella. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. How are you? Thanks for coming. It's Wednesday night. You're here.
Wednesday night, in the dark, we made it into the space with the fake fireplace and a conscious bro.
I am. That is me. Thank you. Conscious girl, woman, female, spirit? Yes. Yeah, this is cool. I love the space. I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, so any excuse I have to come back here, I take it. And I love the city. I love y'all for being here, and I'm excited to hang out. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I want to see, is anyone here for the first time other than yourself? Welcome, first-time friends. Hello. I just want to introduce that District216 is the downtown Santa Barbara psychedelic social club. So it is a membership-based club, and each Wednesday we have a District House event that takes a different shape. So 2 to 3 weeks out of the month, we have a guest interview facilitated by myself. The other weeks we have roundtable discussions, film screenings, and in addition to the weekly events, there's also the quarterly marquee event, which is a huge party that takes over the entire space. And the next one is upcoming in January. So District216 aims to bring edutainment to the space, where we can both educate and entertain on psychedelics, the arts, cannabis, music, all of the things that founder Jacob Tell loves most. He's not with us here tonight. He's in Vegas doing what he does best, representing District. So here we are, holding it down.
Cool.
Yeah. So you have an upcoming comedy special coming out, and I want to give the people a flavor of your comedy presentation and show them a clip.
Cool. Do you want to show that first video that we talked about?
That's my preference.
So just one more thing. I am a comedian. I don't know if y'all already knew that, or if you're finding that out for the first time. You're in for a whole roller coaster for the next hour. I do a lot of comedy videos online. I do stand-up comedy across the country. And just to set up this first video, because we'll probably dissect it after, psychedelics have been a huge part of my process and evolution, both as a person and as a creative. And this video you're about to see is probably one of the dumber things that I've made. It's very stupid, but it stems from my own curiosity about the history of psychedelics and the role that they've played in human evolution, in religion, in community, over hundreds, thousands of years. This specific video was inspired when I first learned about the connection between the Amanita muscaria mushrooms and shamanism up in the northern parts of Finland and our modern day story of Christmas and Santa. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm just gonna play it, and it's really dumb, and I hope you like it. Okay.
Dude, TBH, I'm not even that stoked for Christmas this year. Oh, you mean the holidays? What, I can't say Christmas? Yeah, I heard you're not supposed to say Christmas anymore. The communists will loot your house and freaking burn it down. That sounds pretty extreme, dude. Where do you get your news? Anonymous internet message boards? Oh yeah, that sounds legit. Well, what if I told you that the origin story of Christmas and Santa takes place a long, long time before the homie Jesus ever came to kick it? Oh. And what if I told you that the whole freaking thing is based on freaking mushrooms, dude? I'd say you've been doing too many mushrooms. And I'd say, let me get some. Possibly. But first, allow me to share a different version of history with you through the artistic medium of dubstep. Yo, where'd you learn to play piano, bro? Your mom? Yo, what? She taught lessons when we were growing up, dude. Chill. Oh, yeah. All right, check it out.
Back in the past, the shamans of old would pick hella mushrooms out in the cold. Red and white amanitas growing under the pines. That's the type of Christmas tree that we bring inside. Red and white, the same color as Santa's sleeves. Also the same color as the presents under the tree. It was during winter solstice that the shamans would cruise to each village with their mushrooms and their reindeers too. Sometimes it would be too snowy and windy, so the shamans would come down through the chimney. So Santa is a shaman, bro. Yeah, it's pretty sick. The real present is presents, and yeah, the present is a gift. Santa is a mushroom. Santa is a mushroom. Mushroom. Santa is a mushroom. Christmas. Mushroom. Christmas is mushroom. Santa is a mushroom. This happened in Finland in the Siberian North.
Sounds cold.
Why you think Santa's from the North Pole?
Oh.
Santa Claus is a frickin' shaman, you can't fake it. Santa isn't jolly, yo, that fool is sacred. If I see your girl under the mistletoe, we might kiss.
What?
But not if I want to be on the aligned list. Santa don't say ho, 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 that man is blessed. He be saying om, om, om. Santa is a mushroom. Santa is a mushroom. Santa is a sacred mushroom. Santa. Sacred Santa. Santa is sacred. Santa is a mushroom.
That is the story of freaking Christmas, my boys. That was legit the greatest experience of my entire life. That was probably the sickest Christmas song that's ever been vibed into existence, dude.
Thanks, dude. I finished it last night at your mom's place.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I usually always finish when I'm at your mom's. Dubstep!
So obviously I take psychedelics, and that video though was inspired by when I found out that my girlfriend is here. We were watching those videos together. There's a YouTube channel called After School that some of y'all might have heard of. If you haven't, you have to go look at all his stuff. And he sent me down this whole rabbit hole learning about the connections between Christmas and the shamanic practices in northern Siberia and Finland. And I became obsessed with that, and I'm already a pretty curious student of history, and it's really, really, really cool how psychedelics have always been interwoven in our history as humans and how they are represented today in various modern storytellings. So that's kind of where that came from. Yeah.
I really like that video so much. I still have a little bit more laughter in me. For me, it's the visual during the dubstep that is like particularly hilarious.
Cool.
Do you do all parts of that in your video content creation?
So that's a great question. A lot of my video content is very heavily psychedelic inspired. And that's kind of a general way of describing it. There are a couple different like sub categorizations that I could make, but the one you're talking about is the visual element of it. I don't put my hands on the keys to do visual effects, but I direct very, very closely with two different guys that I work with. And so like what you saw with the eyes expanding or the mouth moving or like the mushrooms dancing a little bit and being like a little bit wavy. I'll show you, we'll watch a couple other videos later. That's all taken from just real life experience and then heightened, right? Like if you've done a heavy psychedelic trip, there were probably a second or two in there where you were like, oh, I've been there before. And so I try to take that realism from my psychedelic experiences and put it into content like this just to give it a different edge for the viewer and invite the viewer to actually have a borderline psychedelic experience. Because I just think that's fun. I think it's fun, you know? I think it makes the content pop a little bit, and it has established kind of a unique style for a lot of the stuff that I do. So
I like that you offer this intention of making it fun and playful.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what else motivates your online content that you share.
Yeah. In general, I kind of like it when we talk about creativity. The person who put this to me the strongest was actually my mom. She said, and she's not a creative, she's a school teacher, which means she's smarter than every artist, but she gave birth to an artist. So now she has to help me with my existential crises. And when she does, the thing that she's always said is, when I'm feeling down and I don't want to make content, it's always been like, well, artists need to create. There's a need, right? If anybody in here creates something, there's a need. It's inherent. There's no negotiating with it. So the motivation behind the content that I make is first and foremost, I have to get it out of my brain, or else I'm gonna have like 300 different personalities in my head talking to me at any given minute. Like all those guys in there, they were all me. Those are all in my head too. They live here, and I have to let them out from time to time. So there's like a borderline indescribable need to create and to get an idea out of my brain. But first and foremost, the motivation behind making content is just to add to the positivity of the world. For me, it's to even give somebody like a chuckle, it can affect their whole day. It's the butterfly effect. You talk about storing trauma. People can store trauma physically. I'm a pretty strong believer that you can also store joy. And if you have like a split second of joy, maybe that gets stored in your cells. I'm still working on the TED Talk, but eventually I'll have a better description of that. But that's kind of the theoretical motivation behind putting out continuous content. Because I think we just got to laugh more. And that's where that goes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would agree that laughter is its own type of medicine.
Yeah.
And having a good laugh brings you into a different type of journey. Yeah. So I appreciate you bringing your presentation onto Instagram, and YouTube is also where you're present and active, and will be soon releasing your self-produced comedy special by the name of Conscious Bro.
Conscious Bro. Yeah. Yeah.
So who is he?
That's a great question. He's all those guys that you just saw. So yeah, I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 10 years, and just finished the edit on my debut stand-up comedy special, which is roughly an hour long. Shot it in San Diego back in May, and we'll show a couple clips later, but it's titled Conscious Bro, and that title is kind of a label that I've grown to feel is in alignment for like who I am as a descriptor. I was raised by a single mom, hippie mom. She brought me to Grateful Dead shows when I was a kid. Brent Midland is my namesake, and he was the drummer for the Dead back in the day. So I was like the little baby running around with a tie-dye shirt and no pants, eating organic peaches at country music festivals. And so I was that. And then I found basketball at age 7 and played all through high school and college, and was kind of in that mainstream sports world. But at the same time, always had this sense of spirituality that my mom instilled in me. And then in my 20s, started going to a lot of transformational music festivals, Lightning in a Bottle, Totality, other festivals with names like Ascension, Rising, Unity, Consciousness Fest of Abundance, or whatever. And they're really fun. They were amazing experiences, those early transformational festival experiences, because they reawoken that sense of spirituality that had been a little bit dormant in college when I was chugging Fireball in Isla Vista, because it's just different that's not really the spiritual elixir of life, right? But so I kind of I found myself straddling both of these spaces, and then in comedy, trying to hone in on my creative voice, because I felt like I have one foot in that kind of mainstream pop culture space, but also one foot in that spiritual new age, eat bark only for 6 months space. And so Conscious Bro is the title of the special, because that is kind of the space that I straddle and would like to invite people into as well through a lot of the stuff that I've done video-wise. Invite people into different ways of thinking about spirituality or psychedelics. So that's been the content has been kind of a vessel for that too.
Yeah. I like that you're normalizing and integrating spiritualism in a way that still allows relatability and humor. And I feel like that's a big criticism that people have of spiritual people, is that they're ungrounded, or like they can't actually make a plan or build a business. And so you're doing all those things in a very intelligent way, and expanding your audience as you travel and give live shows and talks like this, as well as your worldwide demographic that I'm sure finds you so hilarious.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It is fun. And it does, to be completely honest, it feels weird being the guy in this seat now. Like, this is still new for me. I'm not an expert by any means. A lot of y'all probably know way more than I do about psychedelics, but part of this journey has become conversations like this and rooms like this. And this is, I fucking love being in a space like this with people who do know more than me, and sharing what I can share, and then after this, hearing from you guys on your experiences and the Q&A, and it's a really cool moment that we're in, where this is becoming more normal rather than, oh, did you hear what is happening in downtown Santa Barbara, the little fucking art cult downtown, they're meeting up. No, it's becoming like a really cool lane, the psychedelic space, and this whole renaissance that we're in. So it's whatever I can add to it, I'm grateful for the ability to do so.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, just like to invite the audience into the conversation, can I see a raise of hands by people who would consider themselves to be not creative? Oh my gosh, we have an entirely creative identifying audience. This is amazing. Okay, a raise of hands, like if you're an artist, a performance artist, or a visual artist. Okay, so I ask this because I personally have a mental discernment between artistry and creativity. And I also feel that creativity is relative, but nonetheless, psychedelics enhance all of the above. And I want to hear more about your impact personally of psychedelics on your creativity, whether that's in comedy or in life otherwise.
Sure. Yeah. So my first experience with psychedelics was at a festival called Lightning in a Bottle about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years. So I've only been on my personal journey with psychedelics for a little bit under a decade. But that experience kind of like blew my brain apart. I had no idea that you could see those types of colors at the time. You know, it was a full hit of LSD and like 2 full hits of MDMA to a brain that had survived on Fireball for 4 years. So it was legitimately like, if not life-changing, life-affirming, you know, in the sense that I realized what other ways of thinking and operating within the world could be. Because on those large hits of psychedelics at that festival with my best friend, I experienced conversations differently. I experienced physical art differently. I experienced live music performance differently. And it all in a way that touched my emotions and affected how I was experiencing entertainment and relationships. And after that, began experimenting. Currently do a microdose mushroom protocol every couple of weeks. And it's had all types of effects, all types of benefits. I put it in the terms of I broke my brain open and allowed like more brain to be active. That's the best way I can describe it for myself. Maybe for some folks it's different, but in terms of like getting started on the conversation of psychedelics and creativity, my good friend Laura Dawn does a lot of work in that space. If y'all have not heard of her, I highly recommend you look up Laura Dawn. She talks about psychedelics and creativity for artistic purposes, generating actual creative art that can be experienced or interacted with, and then also just creative thinking. And that's what I've been doing a lot of work on over the past couple of years, is using psychedelics to help me think creatively, not just about a creative project, but in my everyday life. And so Laura talked about that a bit recently, and I heard her talk about, there's a really good quote. This guy named Arthur Kessler. Has anybody heard the quote? I'm going to try to remember it. I wrote it down, but I don't want to look it up. It's creativity is the breaking of habitual thinking by originality. Okay, now I have to look it up just to make sure, because I don't want to ruin a quote. Oh, it's close. Creativity is the defeat of habit by originality. So I found that quote a couple of months ago, and it stuck with me, not enough to remember, but it stuck with me. Because for me, if I'm going to approach a creative art project, I first need to be thinking creatively already. I can't be thinking habitually if I'm going to make a film project or if I'm going to start writing new stand-up material. If I'm thinking habitually, then the creative artwork is going to fall flat because it's going to be generated by habitual thinking. But if you can break your habitual thinking patterns, then you'll be operating within a new brain space, and you bring that into the creative artwork. So what is habitual thinking? Being influenced by typical things, typical people around you, typical artwork around you. I'll give you a specific example so it's not vague. When I was working on the comedy special, I knew I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to do something that isn't just going to be an hour of me standing and talking to an audience. And so I had to break my brain a little bit, because thinking habitually would have yielded that type of work. That's what a majority of stand-up comedy specials are. It's a guy or a girl talking straight to the audience with a microphone. Awesome. Super cool. That's how it's always been. And tons of people are successful that way. It's just not something I wanted to do. I wanted to come at it from a different direction. So in seeking inspiration, I did not watch typical mainstream comedy. I did not watch typical mainstream comedy movies. I didn't research typical mainstream film production projects and things like that. I went into my own space of finding influence. I tried to break that habitual process by doing different writing exercises that were a little bit outside of my comfort zone. It was around this time last year, I would walk around in the rain for like an hour and a half. I never do that. So just little things. And I would microdose a little LSD. And it was just doing little things to seek inspiration in a way that was non-habitual, yielded this new artwork that I feel will, if not stand out from mainstream comedy specials, at least be seen as a very different approach to that. Did that answer your question? Did that make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, great.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And everything I offer, I want you to respond in your own creative pathway.
Great.
Feels and flow for you.
Great.
Yeah. What video do you have queued up for us next?
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So this one is... this is one... How much do I want to say before I show it? It's only a minute long. We'll just call it... You know what? We'll call it a word from our sponsor. And then I'll come back and tell you the full story. So this is going to be a word from...
The off season. For most, it's a time for rest. But for Aaron Rodgers, there's work to be done. This is the time for preparation, when past failures become fuel for future success. Fuel your future with ayahuasca sport. Traditional aya brewed in the Peruvian jungle with electrolytes like potassium, magnesium, and ancient mysticism for optimal performance. So whether you're seeking a championship or seeking God, ayahuasca sport is formulated to help you win. Expand your game, expand your consciousness with ayahuasca sport. Now available on Amazon and in the Amazon.
That's one of my favorite things I've ever made. This is super fun. It's so silly. In case anybody is unfamiliar, Aaron Rodgers is Super Bowl winning, MVP winning quarterback who now plays for the New York Jets. And he's been very outspoken with his experience with psychedelics and how it's helped him become a better leader, a better teammate, a better person. This video came to me during an ayahuasca ceremony. So I had the idea. I don't know, has anybody here sat in ceremony before? A couple people. So it ebbs and it flows, and when it flows a lot. And there was a period on night 2 of the weekend long ceremony where I was in a very heavy visual state, and this like kind of commercial style visual started playing of me running down a basketball court and then like stopping and somebody hand me a cup and I drank from it and it was ayahuasca and I kept running and like I was running away from the guy who kept trying to give me ayahuasca and I just kept drinking it. And then it turned into a football field and I was drinking like a Gatorade bottle of ayahuasca. And then so the next day I wrote all that down and I was like, I got to shoot this. And then immediately I thought, oh, well, I have to be Aaron Rodgers if I'm going to shoot this. And so the intention behind the video, first, the intention behind every video, first and foremost, is to make people laugh. That's just up top. Right after that, though, the intention was to take this opportunity, the seed of an idea. I treat it as an opportunity to put out content that integrates some essence of spirituality and psychedelics that is just not seen. Like, you don't see that very much. If you watch SNL, they're not really talking about psychedelics. And if they do, it's a punchline about mushrooms that has been the same for like 40 years, right? Or any TV show, if they're talking about psychedelics, they're talking about psychedelics making you see like pink rainbows in the clouds, or like feeling like you're going to fly, or somebody goes nuts and jumps off a bridge. That stems from the whole war on drugs, describing psychedelics in a poor light. So I wanted this opportunity to integrate psychedelics into a comedy video in kind of a real way. Like, not in the sense that somebody's going to drink ayahuasca in practice, but in the sense that Aaron Rodgers is a real person with a real credibility who has spoken publicly about his work with psychedelics. And so maybe somebody would watch this video and then go find out about that, read that, and now they have been introduced to the psychedelic space. I even had a buddy hit me up after this video came out saying like, dude, did you really do that? Like, have you done ayahuasca? That shit is like insane, right? Like, that's crazy. And I was like, hey bro, go read about it. Like, do a little research, you know? And he did. And I'm still kind of nudging him, but he did his research and he like totally understands it now. And so now there's one more person who we could like accept into this space, right? And so to me, whenever I can integrate psychedelics into a comedy video, it kind of becomes an invitation for people who are unfamiliar with the space to be invited in some way. And destigmatization will continue until every single person in this room is dead. But the more we can add to that destigmatization, the better. And so that was a big part of this too. And the visuals are taken directly from having my eyes closed in ceremony, as you guys might recognize. Yeah.
Has Aaron Rodgers seen this video?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so that's the other thing. So what I've found to be very, very cool is, you know, there's a lot of woo-woo silliness out there around like new age spirituality and psychedelics, but quite a bit of that is like very real to me. And a big thing that I think about a lot is experiencing synchronicities, which many people might talk about as just random coincidences. But synchronicities have a bit more weight to them, right? And I've found that just in my own kind of spiritual journey, in my own journey with psychedelics, the more open you can be to synchronistic events happening, the more they'll happen. The more you open your life up to the possibility of something good happening or something in alignment that you didn't experience, that you didn't think you would experience, the more that will happen. I put this video out. He saw it, liked it, commented on it right away. And then I saw that he was going to be at the Denver Psychedelic Science Conference, the MAPS conference last June. And so I messaged him and I said, hey man, I saw you're going to be at the conference. I hope you liked the video. Can't wait to be out there too. Maybe we'll cross paths. He messaged me back. We talked for a little bit. We ended up getting dinner and then having a whole sound bath ceremony in his hotel room with a friend of ours and the friend's wife. I don't know if y'all know Aubrey Marcus. His wife was there, and it was like a whole synchronistic thing because I hadn't met Aubrey, but we had DM'd on Instagram a couple times, and then Aaron, and I know I might sound like I'm like name dropping to sound cool, which I am because my ego needs it, but this is real. It's real. Like the video came out, and then I made two of the coolest friendship connections that I didn't even know could have existed, you know, and it came from following the intention of the video. And so hopefully that resonates, like the idea of synchronicities happening more and more if you create a container for them to happen, and they will happen. And that's what happened for me. And then he ended up getting me like free Jets tickets about a month ago. So it was really cool. So go make videos with famous people in them and hope that they like them. But it was really cool. And so I'm a very strong believer in the magic and the power of synchronicities, especially when you open yourself up to it. And psychedelics has helped me kind of come to that realization and given me a lot of different tools and practices that I can do to create that space for synchronicities and for good people and things to enter.
I feel you, and I agree, and I think that that intention is available for all of us if we want to tune in to experiencing more synchronicity in our life. And I'll share that synchronistically, I was in Las Vegas at Arcadia Festival, which is Aubrey Marcus's music festival, conscious music festival, he calls it. And I walked into a room where I didn't know what was going on in there, but it was you on stage in your set. And I didn't know that you were going to be there, but I was like, wait a minute, I think he's coming to Santa Barbara here soon as well. And I have the opportunity to sit with him and share a chat. So I thought that that was very cool. And here we are. I'm a huge fan of Aubrey Marcus and the whole squad. So I appreciate you name dropping that. It like gives me a little butterfly sensation.
Cool,
I'm like,
yeah.
well, this is the closest I've gotten to him. It's amazing.
Cool. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you speak about synchronicity, laughter as medicine, and these awesome psychedelic experiences that have impacted you. But I also know enough to know that that hasn't always been the case, and that you've also struggled with your own mental health challenges. And so to humanize you a bit, will you give us a glimpse into what those challenges were like and how psychedelics and your creative process has influenced you?
Yeah, I feel lucky in the sense that I don't have any like major traumatic insurance. I don't have any major traumatic events that I've had to like work through, you know, from like childhood. Did you get a high score? Okay, sick. I feel lucky in that sense. A lot of people have been through a lot of really dark things, a lot of really challenging things. And so when I talk about my mental health, I feel grateful that I haven't experienced that, and I wouldn't want to put myself in a position where I'm like speaking for mental health, because I don't think that's quite my path or purpose. But I can talk about my struggles, which have mainly been the struggles of most artists: anxiety, imposter syndrome, a little bit of an identity crisis, and comparison, which is those four things are like very fucking toxic, and they've been borderline crippling for me at times in really, really low moments. What psychedelics have offered me, particularly in my microdose protocols that I do, is the opportunity to just kind of give myself a different perspective inward. And I'll give you an example. In this ayahuasca ceremony that I sat in last April, there was a point where I was really deep in the experience, and I'd been told by a couple of friends who had been guides and had sat in ceremony before, and even the ceremony facilitator had expressed to all of us, you know, when you're very deep in that experience, try communicating with the medicine. Try talking to it. Just try. And it sounds kind of silly, but when you're really, really deep and there's no existence around you, you're so far in whatever interdimensional space that is, try talking. Try asking a question. Try asking. And so I did. I tried asking a question. I tried to communicate with the plant. And I kept getting a word back during this one moment. I couldn't tell you if it was 10 minutes or 4 hours, but the word was allow. The word allow kept like pounding in my brain. Allow, 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 allow. And that from then on, this was this past April. So from then up until now, I've thought about that almost every day, because I personally have a habit of trying to control things a bit too much. And then when that doesn't work, I feel like a little bit of a sense of failure, especially when I look around and do the comparison thing and see that other people in my space are rifling off and rocketing to the moon. And I feel like I'm down here saying, good job, but like, where are my boosters, you know? but just allow, reminding myself to allow the flow of life to carry me where I'm supposed to go. Allow myself to be present and grateful that I'm in this moment, that I get this moment talking to y'all, or that I got that moment with Aaron, or that I got that moment at the festival I got to perform at a music festival. That was dope. So just allowing, that came to me in that space, and it's something that comes back to me pretty often in heavy dose experiences, is the sense of kind of shedding the weight of expectation that I put on myself, and instead just allowing my process to move me forward. And that meditation of shedding the extra weight of expectation and allowing my own process to move me forward, that is a very specific thing that has come from using psychedelics for me. And it's really, really helped me calm my mind, calm my nervous system, be okay with what I might have previously perceived as a failure, but instead don't look at it as a failure, look at it as not the right thing. And that means there's something better coming along, whether it's like I didn't get into this thing, or I didn't get cast for that thing, or this video didn't go viral, or whatever the thing is. So as an artist, those anxieties and those stresses usually come from expectations of myself. And using psychedelics and practicing mindfulness and practicing this principle of allowing has really just allowed me to be more free in my creativity. And it's an ongoing process. I mean, my God, I'll be depressed tomorrow and try to meditate for 20 minutes on the word allow. And I think that's just kind of the journey of being a human, which everything I'm saying right now has specifically come from working with psychedelics. So, and there's mindfulness practices too, of course, meditation and breath work and other things similar to psychedelics that can bring you to those places. But yeah, that's been a major help for me and my own mental health.
Thank you for sharing that. I really like that piece on allowance, and I connect to that because I speak to many people who disallow a certain range of their humanity. Like if they feel sadness, they don't allow that. Or if they feel anger, they don't allow that. And so this is a theme in my life and the people that I speak to where I am encouraging the allowance of all that arises naturally. Mm-hmm. And I've been on a deep healing journey in relationship to my body and feeling pain in my body. And I received a similar invitation to just allow rather than reject the intensity of sensation that I was experiencing. And that was a huge catalyst for me personally, to reclaim my power and reclaim my relationship to my body. So yeah. I feel you there.
Cool. Yeah, and it's also the community that you can find through psychedelics is really fucking cool, because there's so much growth to be had sober. Just hanging out with people that are sharing different tips and tricks for what they do in their life to maintain wellness and positive mental health. It's not all just doing a protocol of mushrooms and going deep on acid twice a year. That can help for sure. And there are physical practices that you can do with the medicines and with the substances. But like this community here, y'all will be friends and just be talking at some point to each other, and somebody will share a breathwork thing that they do or a meditation practice that they do that you wouldn't have known about unless you had stepped into the psychedelic space. So right there, psychedelics are working, even though you're not taking them. It's still part of the entire medicinal package. I really believe that. It brings you, psychedelics can bring you into a community and just give you new tools, even without taking them. Although taking them is also a really good tool. But yeah, just being in a space and trying to be a part of and trying to be a part of communities like this is just as helpful, if not more, than actually taking the medicines themselves for me.
Yeah, I feel you. And I deeply value this community. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out tonight. How many more videos do we have to present?
There's one more to close, or not to close, but one more to maybe lead us in another direction. And then maybe a clip from the comedy special. And then whatever. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I would love to transition now into our little rapid fire questions, which don't necessarily need to be rapid. You may take them in your own creative pathway. And the first is, Who is your greatest influence and why?
My greatest influence creatively.
Sure.
Creative influence. That's a good question. Who's my greatest creative influence? Right now, it's that fucking tiger. It's like, that next joke better be funny. What was the oh, it was a panther from Jungle Book, right? Or jaguar? Panther? It's a panther. Okay. What was it? Bagheera. Okay. Yeah, that's not Bagheera. Creative influences for me have been people who brought something like so totally different to whatever they were doing. So Jim Carrey in the 90s, his first comedy special was just insane. He's running around like a stick of rubber. He's a big influence for me, specifically because he did something completely different. Nobody had ever seen somebody who could contort their face to look like that, like literally that. Like he can do that as a face, and that was crazy at the time. It was crazy. So he was a big inspiration for me. Some psychedelic artists that are big inspirations. Alex Gray, y'all probably know Alex Gray. A lot of his work I've used as like visual references for specific moments in some of my videos, because he has nailed the hour 4 of an acid trip look. So I really love Alex Gray. Other creative influences, Aubrey is a big influence. He is one of the most open people I know with his emotions. And he's been a really cool voice to have in the space, I think. My mom is a big influence, as I said before. I feel like I have cooler creative influences. Maybe I'll think of one in a minute and tell you. But those are pretty cool creative influences.
All super valid.
Those are good creative influences.
Yeah. Totally. Cool. I thought you were gonna say your mom, so I'm glad she got mentioned there. Yeah. So my next question for you is, if you were on a deserted island and you are allowed to bring one book with you, what is that book?
One book. Okay, I'm gonna name 3 and then I'll choose one. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The Transol Saga. Did anybody ever read that? It's like a kind of like a teen book. I read it when I was like 13, but I read it like 30 times. And I haven't read it in a really long time, and I just remember loving it. So that one, or Homer's Odyssey, because then I wouldn't finish it, and I would have something to do every day. I think that's my answer. I think that one. Yeah. If I'm stranded on a desert island, I'd bring the Odyssey, and I'd be entertained every single day until I die.
You're set.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It'll be exciting because I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna die before I get to the end. So, yeah. But there's also a really cool book. Oh, I know. I have the answer. I take all that back. Rick Rubin's new book, The Creative Act. If you haven't read it, you got to read it, especially if you're into creativity. Everybody here is an artist of some sort, I'm sure. So The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, got to read it. Required reading for sure. Yeah.
And if you could trip with anyone, dead or alive, on any substance, who would it be and with what medicine?
Oh, man. Oh, you know what? I have a better answer for the first question. Okay. See, I knew I would think of it. What was it again? Your creative influence?
Greatest influence.
Greatest influence. Okay. So my mom took me to Grateful Dead shows when I was a kid. I already mentioned that. We got Brent Midland on his shirt, Jerry's on mine. And so I took my mom to the Dead's final run of shows in San Francisco about 2 or 3 months ago. And leading up to the shows, I did a whole re-education program for myself on the Grateful Dead. And I learned so much more. I thought I had known everything, and I learned so much more. I watched all the documentaries. I've read a couple of the books. The Grateful Dead will always be one of my biggest creative influences because they were so pure in their approach to creating their art. They never wanted to make music. They wanted to play music. That's all they wanted to do was play it. They didn't give a shit about recording. They didn't care about putting out an album. They just wanted to play the music for the people. That's all they wanted. I even watched a clip of Jerry and Bob Weir on, I think it might have been either early Conan or Letterman. I think it was Letterman. Yeah. And they played a song, and they were so ungodly uncomfortable. Like, they looked terrible. They looked like just normal, weird, like they're wearing shit clothes. Jerry's just like kind of here. He's not looking at the audience at all. They nailed it, though. They nailed it because all they gave a shit about was the art that they were making. That's it. And there's something really beautiful about that. So I try to take inspiration from them from time to time when I'm thinking about, is this video going to hit? Is this stand-up joke going to be funny? Is this project that I'm pushing forward going to be liked by people? I try to remember that they wouldn't be asking any of those questions. They would only be finding joy and purpose in the creation and in the creative act of making the thing. So that they are a massive inspiration for me. So that's my answer. Great. What was the recent question? What was the newest one?
Who do you want to trip with?
Oh,
and on
trip
what?
with. That's a good question. Who do I want to trip with? Man, dead or alive? God, I feel like I want to say one of the presidents, just to get their brains online a little bit better. Yeah, Terrence would be good. Oh, that'd be crazy, dude. Just being around him would be a trip. You wouldn't even need to take any substances. Dead or alive? I know it shouldn't be this hard of a question. I'm making it a hard question, but maybe Jerry, because he would probably just play guitar for like 8 hours, and that'd just be nuts, you know. Einstein, maybe, you know, figure out gravity, and he's a trip, dude. I read an Einstein biography recently. That if he wasn't on drugs, he was close to it. That fucking guy can't think like that sober. That's insane. I think Jerry Garcia would be really fun to trip with. I also think Donald Trump would probably be somebody to trip with, because then maybe, you know, he would be doing a lot of healing. And yeah, there's a joke in my special. I talk about how I think every president should take psychedelics. And yeah, is that a good answer? Okay.
Yeah, great answer.
Okay, cool. You'd be Donald Trump's shaman, you know? Yeah. What's happening? You're okay. You're okay. Everything's moving. Nothing's moving. You're fine. Just have some water. I don't trust it. It's just water. It's okay.
What would you be offering him in the shamanic experience?
Of probably on night one, a very heavy dose of MDMA. But I think everybody that runs for president should do an ayahuasca ceremony before the debate. I think it should be required. You know, if I was in Congress, I'd try to pass a bill. There's a lot of pain these fucking people have. If you want to be president, you got a lot wrong with you. I think that's my opinion. If you want to be president, you have a lot of healing that needs to happen. Okay, there's somebody out there that doesn't want to be president. That's our guy or girl. That's the person we should have. But I think you know, maybe if it's one huge experience, probably ayahuasca. But if we could get them on like a microdose protocol and get some what's the phrase? Neurogenesis going on. Yeah, I think that could help too. Yeah. Yeah.
I would agree.
Yep.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is, do you believe in an afterlife? And if yes, what does that look like in your belief? And do you think that the psychedelic experience gives us access to that to some degree?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. That's a deep one. Okay, cool. Afterlife. I don't believe in an afterlife in like maybe the most commonly held sense. What has resonated with me always, more than anything, I'm still very much a student in all of this, but what's resonated with me is that every human person comes from the same place. Your energy comes from the same place. Your physical material comes from the person before you, comes from the person before them, but you pull it all back and there's one like source. We talk about source energy all the time. And it's in my belief, when your body can't function anymore and conks out, that energy doesn't, because energy cannot be, what is that phrase? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Thank you. So I think it's always been. And I think once your energy, once your body is dead, your energy returns to that source energy and then gets facilitated through into the next iteration of you, right? But I also think that the real tangible afterlife is whatever you leave on the planet, whatever influence you have left after you die. That'll stick around until the earth burns into a million pieces by the sun. But I've always held it in my mind, maybe a little bit romanticized for sure. The afterlife is what you leave. It's the influence that you had on other people. It's the people you made laugh. It's the people you made cry. It's the people you hurt. Are you going to leave a positive afterlife, or are you going to leave a negative afterlife? It's the memories you left behind for people who are then going to pass that on to other people. I'll tell my grandkids stories about my best friends. That's my best friend's afterlife. Now, still in circulation with my grandkids, and then maybe they'll tell it to their kids. And so your energy is still there in that story, because if I tell a story to my grandkids of my buddy who's dead or who will die, and they laugh, and then they pass that story down 2 generations, and then my great-great-grandkids laugh, that laugh is what I was talking about before, is the joy. You're now storing joy in your body. And that, to me, is the most obvious afterlife that I can think of, is what you leave behind. But in terms of like spiritual afterlife, I wasn't raised religious, so I don't have a good grasp on what a majority of religious folks might think. But I don't think there's a heaven with gates. I think it's much more plausible that your energy just returns once your body is done. And as far as psychedelics goes, I've heard a lot of pretty wild stories from people on very high psychedelic dose journeys who have experienced some sense of crossing over into a different space, a different plane, a different dimension. Who am I to disbelieve that? I'll make fun of it all the time, for sure. But always with love, from a place of love. Like I wouldn't mock or put anybody down that has those types of experiences, because they're totally fucking possible. The crazy shit that can't be explained, that we've all heard of or has crossed our paths or we've seen on the news or whatever, or on anonymous internet message boards, whatever. All that stuff, there's got to be some truth to it. And there's got to be truths that we just don't understand. So I do think that psychedelics can act as a path or a doorway to a different level of consciousness. And I think that different level of consciousness can be accessed through psychedelics, and is closer to what we might call the afterlife than what like mainstream religion might describe as the afterlife. You know, there's a pretty thin veil sometimes between the 3D reality that we operate in and an unexplainable, maybe interdimensional or other fun word that you can think of, space of being. I think that for sure exists, and I think psychedelics can act as the doorway to that. I haven't experienced something as transcending as that, but I've heard stories, and I don't not believe them. So
I understand. And a way that I would also describe what I believe you're describing is there's a deep identification with the body and the human experience when we're here, and in our cognitive identification of self. And the psychedelic experience sometimes creates space between that to really feel the core of our soul essence and the difference between that and our human self-identification. And I feel like when we release that identification with body and with this dimension of existence, we enter that multidimensional space of isness, of energy, unnamed, formless, whatever it is. And so describing that as like the afterlife space is also what the psychedelic experience sometimes gives us access to. Well, thank you for this interview. It's been super fun. We're going to include the audience to see if there's any questions that people want to shout out to Brent. I'll come bring you the mic.
Completely genuine. It's of my nature, and I hope it's not insulting in any shape or form, but I am from Wisconsin. I moved out here maybe 7 years ago. And my favorite comedian is Charlie Barons. I hope you know.
I know who Charlie is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I love him because what he hits on, I relate to a T. And he's not making fun of Wisconsin. It's just who we are as people.
Yep.
And when I watched your stuff on Instagram, I don't mean to be insulting to people here, but I can't tell if you're making fun of some of these personality types, because I'm in an area where I feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland half the time. I'm like, I can't believe these people, these are their personalities, and this is how they walk through the world. Because you go to Wisconsin and it's simpleton. So I'm curious if, because now I'm getting a sense of who you are. It is you, but it also feels like it's exaggerating and making fun of these things that are in Wisconsin. I get made fun of. I'm now the hippie girl that moved to California. So yeah, I don't know if that's the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you maybe looking for a better sense of the intentions behind poking fun at certain people and tropes and styles and characters?
Like the spiritual guys and the ego
spiritual
guys.
in that
Music
space.
Festival, like those are so spot on because I've even come across them, but I don't think they're aware.
You know, as spiritually heightened as many people are in the conscious community, I've also found a surprising lack of self-awareness from time to time, and I think a lot of people in that space would agree. We all know folks who have a little bit of toxic spirituality, where they think, they know they are just a little bit better than you because they're connected to source just a little bit more than you are. And it's those people that I for sure take respectful aim at, because the only people that I will mock and poke fun of with a very low level of respect is politicians. I don't really have, like, my intentions aren't good toward them when I do political content. But my intentions are always good toward the audience. But that's the role of, the archetype of the court jester, right? Is to not hold back from anyone or anything. And I'm a very, very, very firm believer that nothing is off limits ever, as long as it's done with the intention of joy and not with the intention to offend. So I never do anything with the intention to offend, including political stuff. But in regards to specifically the spiritual new age space, music festival space, I mean, I'm that guy. All the clothes you see me wearing, those are my clothes. The wide brim hat with crystals on it, that's my hat. I love that hat. I wear that hat all the time. I'll go home tonight, we'll light sandalwood and sage and put on Parangi and chill. Like, that's my shit. That's who I am as a person. But it's a character type that's ripe for mining. And I enjoy that. Like, I did this character, the guy who just learned how to manifest. And I wore a black kimono, which again I own, and that's my Tuesday outfit at Burning Man. And I wore my hat and the beads and the whole thing. And yeah, it is to mock and it is to make fun. But that to me is that role of the court jester shining through, which is, definitely manifestation is real. But don't put yourself on a pedestal because you were hungry for watermelon and the store has watermelon on sale. You know what I mean? Like, you're not the shit for that. I love you, but there comedy, I think, has the responsibility to not allow anyone or anything or any idea to become too holier than thou. And that's my personal perspective, and I integrate that into my work all the time, and nothing is ever done to offend or like to poke fun at meanly, but I absolutely love when people say things like what you just said, which is, I can't tell. That's awesome, because now you're thinking, and that's really cool to me. I like to think of people thinking, and but just now it's always for love. I love Charlie. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll have to message him right after this. Yeah, he's great.
I guess I'm going to try to consolidate. I have 3 points I want to try to make and then not dominate too much time. But two things that you said tonight that really stuck with me were the body also stores joy, and psychedelics work even when you're not taking them. And I think those two statements, you can talk about each one of those for an hour alone, because it's important to remember and think about those things. So thank you for that, because that's going to stick with me. Second was, I totally appreciate the desire to bring laughter and unseriousness to this space, because it's a space that's perceived a lot as being holier than thou, or perceived as being too serious. It's like you microdose, meditate, like do all the things, be spiritual, but like if you do all that and you can't laugh at the end of the day, or laugh at yourself, laugh at the people in your community, then you definitely are taking it too seriously, and I feel like it's kind of lost. So there's that. And the last thing was the Blue Alien. I think the first skit I saw on Instagram that you did was the Joe Rogan DMT interviewing the Blue Alien, and then I saw him make an appearance again, so I want to know about that character and where he came from.
Awesome. Hell yeah, dude. That's so great. That's the first one you saw. Real quick to touch on poking fun at or laughter and joy. So at the ayahuasca ceremony that I've already talked about 300 times, did you guys know I've done ayahuasca? The ceremony leader, his name is Tony Moss. Phenomenal human being, amazing person. That I didn't quite know what to expect when I went in to sit in ceremony with that group of folks. I've heard some ceremonies are very, very rooted in kind of silence, rooted in this like thick energy of just stillness. His ceremony was hilarious. It was funny. It was funny in the sense that he expressed very openly that everybody is here to grow and evolve. We all have the intention of walking out of this room with higher levels of joy at the end of this weekend. We're going to fight through it. We're all going to cry and throw up and shit our pants and do all the things that might happen during a ceremony. But at the end of it, we're going to leave with joy. And he would pepper in jokes to his welcoming each night. And then even during the ceremony, I remember somebody hit, there are 5 musicians up front, and somebody hit the wrong key on the guitar. It sounded awful, and it ruined the song. And it was like a really cool song, and everybody's very intense. And I like peeked up in this like from the depths, and I looked up, and Tony, like, he made a joke about it, and in the ceremony he was like, fuck it, we'll do it a cappella. And it was so unexpected. It was so unexpected, because you think that type of setting is going to be serious the whole way through. And he just made it so fun. And I talked to him after, and he expressed to me the importance of allowing room for joy, because that's when you can just heighten the experience. It doesn't always need to be sad and still and somber and serious. You can have moments of joy and happiness that actually increase the energy in the room and can help you integrate the experience that you're having in a better way. So I hope that speaks to that part. And the Blue Alien, dude. So yeah, I've been into aliens for my entire life. I have a healthy obsession with aliens. I follow everything about aliens. There's an insane Reddit article that was posted a while back, or a crazy post on Reddit from this guy who like works in underground labs and all these things. It's crazy. But the alien content that I've done has been my favorite stuff to do, because I can use the alien as a lens to comment on humanity in a way that Brent Pella, white guy comedian, cannot. Because an alien inherently is unbiased. They got no skin in the game. They don't even have skin, honestly, but they don't have a dog in the fight. They got no perspective toward humanity other than taxes are fucking dumb. Oh my God, waffle cones are delicious, So I can use that alien to comment on topical trending issues, and there's a lot of humor in that, because I think that character can act as a mirror for humanity. I'm doing some bigger, trying to push it as a TV show concept right now and some other things, shooting more content with the alien guy soon. But he's been a running theme because he offers that mirror effects to allow us to look at ourselves and laugh a bit, which I think we need to do anyways.
Inspired by a psychedelic experience, or is that just coming from you naturally?
He was inspired. Well, all of my alien interest is like kind of heightened by psychedelics. But me and my buddy we do him, and my buddy is another blue alien character. We both have been on like a decade-long journey on our own paths with psychedelics, and so I think a lot of the creativity and a lot of the inspiration to use that character as a mirror, I don't see that happening without me building my own self-awareness and my own creative drive, in large part with the help of psychedelics.
Well, thank you guys all for coming tonight. Can we get one more round of applause for Brent? Allison?